Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nathan Rolfe. I'm the president of the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces, and I'll be your host for this segment. On behalf of Tortora Brayda Institute and the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces, I would like to welcome you to this month's episode of our Cyber Workforce Series, where we will speak with cyber professionals about their careers and journeys to help them inform others on the diversity and paths within the cybersecurity industry, and hopefully support you, the listener, on your own personal cyber career journey. Before we meet this month's guest, I'd like to share a little bit about the two organizations that are making this series possible, the Tortora Brayda Institute and the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces. The Tortora Brayda Institute was created to promote collaboration across public and private sectors with a focus on business, culture, and diversity. Tortora Brayda looks to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices with a view to improving and securing businesses and economies. A core concept of the Institute is their think tank for partnership in AI and cybersecurity. The think tank has allowed Tortora Brayda to bring together experts and leaders from the public and private sectors and academia around the world to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices while embracing the most critical technology growth. If you are not currently a member of the Institute, we invite you to visit their website at www.tortorabrayda.org to learn more and see how you can participate. The Association of U.S. Cyber Forces is a nonprofit professional association that provides the voice for members of the cyber workforce who serve in the military, government agencies, and industry on specific cyber issues impacting national security. AUSCF is an advocate for positive change to policies and programs that better serve their membership and help minimize gaps between the private and public sector cybersecurity efforts. If you would like to learn more or join AUSCF, please visit their website at www.auscf.org. During today's discussion, please feel free to drop any questions into the chat, and as time allows, we will attempt to weave in answers during the session. Your questions and feedback directly shape this and future events. Today's guest is Roxy Correa-Torres. Roxy is a dynamic individual excelling in both the cybersecurity realm and military service. With a passion for technology and a commitment to safeguarding critical assets, she's been able to gain significant experience in the digital landscape. As a dual military officer in the Army Reserves, her leadership and operational background go hand in hand when it comes to understanding this multifaceted space from various aspects. With a blend of technical expertise and strategic thinking, Roxy is committed to continuous learning in the ever-evolving field of cybersecurity and military operations. Roxy, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here today.
So I'll jump right in. Roxy, you are the first one of our guests that we've had on this show that works both in the military and civilian worlds. So can you start out just by telling us a little bit about what you do in both sides?
Sure. So I can start off with the civilian side. So I was able to jump on board with Raytheon July 2018. So I had quite a bit of experience when it comes to that. Gained some experience when it came to classified systems auditing, supporting these classified systems in a sense, right? So log reviews when it came to Windows, Linux, Solaris, management of hardware and software baselines. Basically a lot of what encompasses keeping classified systems in classified areas up and running when it comes to a lot of these checklists and these regular inspections that are required in order to have them effectively run, right? And also be able to operate. On the military side, I joined in February 2016 as a signal officer in the United States Army Reserves. So for anybody who's not too familiar with the Signal Corps, it is essentially the communications aspect of the military. So anything dealing with radios, tactical assets, anything that essentially turns on and off in the military, a lot of it falls to what is the Signal Corps. So that is kind of what I do on the Army side. Right now, I'm actually a company commander. So I'm trying to juggle both my civilian career as well as the Army aspect of it. And proud to say that recently I got offered a position with Minerva Cyber Tech. So I will be making that transition over from Raytheon to Minerva, kind of gaining that experience when it comes to cyber, when it comes to information security, and just being able to work with a close-knit team. I'm very much looking forward to all these opportunities. So.
Excellent. So it sounds like you joined the Army before you got involved with Raytheon. Is the Army where you really cut your teeth in the cybersecurity world?
Yes, that's correct. Being an officer on the Army side, you are expected to be jack of all trades, essentially. When it comes to radios, like I said, when it comes to signal, when it comes to networking, IT, help desk. So being able to gain that aspect of having this high level overview really set me up for success in the future when it came to figuring out this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want to explore in the future. And that kind of led me to gaining some of these opportunities when it came to the civilian side and transferring over to.
Sorry, we lost you a little bit at the end there. You said gaining some efforts on the civilian side and they transferred over.
Yes, that's correct. So having that high level overview with the military really allowed me to focus in on what I really wanted to explore on the civilian side.
Excellent. So, when you joined the Army, did you choose that path to go into cybersecurity? I know signal officer, there's a lot involved in that, or did the Army kind of choose that path for you?
So in the beginning, fun fact, I was actually, my contract was drawn up so that I could be a military intelligence officer, but something happened along the scenes and this opportunity for signal came about. So I jumped on board. I figured, hey, it was kind of sort of in the similar realm of responsibilities when it came to technology and protecting assets. So I geared more towards the signal, and I've been a little over 8.5 years as a signal officer, a 25 Alpha.
That's awesome. I'm a former MI officer myself, so I'm not
Good
convinced
stuff.
you made the right choice, but I think it's great. So it sounds like a lot of your initial training then, especially that you used in that civilian role, came from the Army. What did you do outside of uniform to kind of help expand some of that education and training?
So actually, previous to joining the military, right out of college, I started working for a company that a couple years later on actually belongs to Grubhub now. So being able to see the aspect of systems integration, of network integration, of marketing, of advertising, and how everything came together at Grubhub, kind of began the sparked the interest in a sense when it came to joining not only as a signal officer, but later on jumping more on board to what is cyber, what is information security. So that was kind of my background as far as career-wise a little bit prior to the military. And my bachelor's, I received my bachelor's from Suffolk University in downtown Boston. So I actually got my degree in international affairs. I think being able to get that big picture overview of what's going on around the world, history, who are the key players around the world, and homeland security, and how that kind of comes together, really allowed me to, like I said, see that big picture, and then being able to focus in on what is the role of technology, how does that affect us, how does that affect the public sector, the private sector, everything that is DoD, and eventually what is Raytheon and some of these smaller companies that are growing and growing faster and faster in everything that is the cyber world.
I want to focus a little bit on the degree aspect that you just talked about, not so much about what you did to get that degree, but the fact that
Sure.
it's not a traditional computer science degree. We see a lot of folks that just assume they need to go to school for computer science or cybersecurity if they want to get into this field. That's not the path you took. Do you feel that was a advantage, disadvantage, or kind of neutral?
I have heard that quite a bit, and I think I would be right. Somebody considered an example for this, and the fact that you don't necessarily need to have a bachelor's specifically in information technology or anything tech related. Being able to have this background and kind of a different perspective, looking from the outside in, has allowed me to be more flexible and maybe think outside of the box when it comes to how to tackle certain challenges that we're facing in the tech world, in the cyber world, how to deal with certain situations. Being able to have, like I said, that outside perspective, not so much a cut and dry cookie cutter. Hey, this is this is what I was taught in school, has really allowed me to excel. And I think one portion of that is also the self-educating aspect of it, which I'm a big proponent of, is not just what you learn in school, but also taking time, instead of going on social media, really taking the time to understand what's going on around us and constantly educating yourself when it comes to this evolving field.
Awesome. Well, let's focus a little bit on your civilian job first, because we've got really two lives to look at during this conversation. Can you describe kind of what a typical day looks like for you, or is there even such a thing as a typical day?
So when it comes to the day-to-day, it varies just like anything, right? But a typical week would start off with running some of the reports in order to be able to get the logs. So as analyst / information system security officer, you are looking at the raw information when it comes to some of these systems. So log reviews entail whether your audience, your customer base, right? Whoever is using the information system, whoever's part of the information system aspect, is whether they're using Windows or Linux or Solaris, whatever it may be. We need to know that these individuals actually have the correct access, that the correct need to know in order to be able to operate in some of these information systems and some of these programs. Some of the programs may focus more on engineering aspects. Some of these programs may focus on something else. So whoever is working within those programs needs to have the correct need to know, essentially, and be approved users when it comes to that. So every week we pull the reports and we ensure that the individuals and the information that is being run in these programs are actually that these individuals are actually approved, in a sense, to be able to do that. So that is kind of the beginning of the week and what sets up the rest of the week. The remainder of the week entails anything from working side by side with the network engineers as well as information technology team. So any sort of new requirements that are coming down, any sort of new hardware that needs to be plugged in. It's not just plug and play. There needs to be certain controls that are in place, certain individuals that need to essentially give the approval for a piece of hardware and or software to be implemented within these programs. So that's kind of what it looks like as far as a day-to-day. If we do have, which it happens quite often, if we do have any sort of inspection coming up, the right documentation needs to be in place. So that is one big thing I would say about being within the information systems, information security world, is that everything needs to be properly documented on a regular basis, just so that when these inspections come up, which essentially they ensure that the information systems and these programs can accurately keep running, that the right people are in place, that the right information is actually well kept and secured, and that the equipment has the proper controls such that we keep the information safe from any sort of situations happening in the future.
All right. You mentioned going through logs on a weekly basis. I would imagine, and this is just my assumption, that you might be using AI or some other type of enhanced capabilities to get through that information quicker. Is that something that you do use on your job?
Somewhat. So one of the big programs that we do use is Splunk. So being able to have that integration, and I don't know if anybody has seen the raw logs when it comes to Linux, but it is not easy on the eyes, and you can be there for an extended period of time. So really being able to have this data portrayed in a way that is easy for any of us essentially to look at on an extended period of time, and also not only having the raw data, but also making sense of it, having those percentages, seeing what any sort of red flags when it comes to the system is something that is it's up and coming.
Okay, so you described various different aspects of the job, from the documentation to the analysis to the team working and working with hardware and other software aspects. What if you were talking to somebody that's basically looking to get into this type of work, what kind of traits, skills, knowledge do you think you would recommend to them to have as a top performer in your field?
So I would recommend, like I said, the previous, having that will, having that drive to self-educate, because things are constantly changing, even from month to month, day to day, whatever it may be. It's really important for us to stay in the know as far as what's going on around the world. How is our world changing? What are the new policies in place? What are the new regulations in place? So really having somebody that is hungry for that knowledge, that consistent knowledge, is very important. And I think that another thing that is going to set somebody up for success, not only in this field, but essentially any field nowadays, is having that teamwork, having that personality to be able to work alongside all sorts of different individuals from all sorts of different backgrounds. I think that is something that is going to set an individual up for success, not only like I said, with these private companies, but also even the military. You have people from all sorts of backgrounds, and just being able to have that people team building component of it within a trait is something that's very important. Consistent learning, consistent education is what a lot of it also goes back to.
So I was going to save this question for later, but you've talked so much about the continuing learning, the self-education. Do you have any particular resources, whether it's websites or information sources or even events, that you would recommend someone get engaged with to really stay current and continue their own self-education?
Yeah, definitely. I think the great thing about social media is that everybody has some sort of tool at their fingertips where they're able to gain all of this knowledge and information. I'm a big fan of podcasts. So going on different podcasts on Spotify, pulling up, seeing what's relevant, seeing what's new, and just kind of consistently seeing what's out there. LinkedIn is also a great tool. A lot of people may think it is very driven by new jobs or changing career paths or whatnot, but there is a lot of really great groups out there when it comes to cyber and IT, networking, and all of these key players within their organizations and within the tech field, essentially putting out some good information, some white papers out there, some infographics where you may be able to gain something from. So I would say that LinkedIn has some pretty great assets, as well as any podcast, wherever you may, any of these platforms that have podcasts. I think that is also a good route to be able to take, just because you can stop it, you can take some notes, you can revert back to it, and you can listen to them as many times as possible. So it really gives you a good opportunity to see different perspectives and continue to gain that knowledge.
All right, thanks. Going back to your job specifically, what would you say some of the coolest aspects of your job are? What gets you up in the morning?
And I know I already mentioned it, but I think working with a team, something that I learned fairly quick, not only within my military career, but also at Grubhub. I used to have this little sticky note, because I was over in the marketing team working some advertising / marketing. And I had a sticky note on my desk that said, understand their wants, their needs, their values, and then and only then do you sell your product. So what that goes back to is not only as managers, but as individuals, part of a team, is that being able to see where people's strengths and weaknesses are is huge. Somebody that may be great at maintaining documentation may not be so great at reviewing something like logs or maintaining user lists. So just being able to see where your team's pros and cons are of the team in itself and of each individual is something that I get a lot from. And I think with the right team, with the right mentality, you can essentially do anything in this field and even outside of it. So just really having some good people, good teams who are being just constantly sharing information and constantly working alongside one another is something that I really thrive for when it comes to this field, and specifically with my job.
All right. And then on the flip side of that same coin, are there any aspects of your job that you dread? That are just the things that I hate doing this, but it's a necessary evil.
I think I think an aspect of it is sometimes it is a little repetitive. So one good thing that our group, our department has done is that after working in specific programs, we kind of rotate regularly through different programs so that you see different information, so that you get to interact with different personnel. But I think sometimes it does get a little redundant when it comes to the tech, the auditing, for example, aspect of it, which is something that's done on a weekly basis for some programs, every 2 weeks for some. So it can get a little repetitive, but having that rotation consistently really helps.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and kind of shift back a little bit towards the military side and maybe talk a little bit about both as well. I feel like this is a no-brainer question, but I have to ask: how do you feel that your military experience and work that you've done has actually helped on the civilian side, or vice versa?
Absolutely. I was, when was this, 2020? For the first 5 years or so in the military, I've held different positions when it comes to communications. So I was a battalion S6, which is essentially for a battalion element, being the subject matter expert when it came to communication assets. I was the advisor to my commander in that aspect. So this is typically somebody who is not versed when it comes to communications assets, especially when it comes to the military. So being able to have that experience, specifically in a movement control battalion, which is kind of like air traffic control, but on the ground with Humvees and tactical equipment. I had the opportunity to deploy over to CENTCOM, Central Command, which is essentially the Middle East region for a bit. So having that experience, being able to work in a sometimes uncomfortable environment, right? And being able to see some of the information coming out, educating people consistently when it came to information systems, is something that will translate to absolutely anything, especially when it comes to the civilian side. So just being able to work with the team, work with some of these new technologies coming about, really translate it well, and especially in an uncomfortable environment, really set me up and obviously my soldiers up for that translation over to the civilian side when it comes to communications and whatnot.
So you just said that you had been deployed overseas. Did this occur while you were working at Raytheon?
Yes, it did. It was, thankfully, it was pretty ahead of time, where I was able to make that coordination, and kind of the team was able to divvy up, in a sense, some of my tasks and responsibilities. So that was extremely helpful when it comes to supporting, right, my other life in uniform. So that did occur when I was at Raytheon.
Did you have any issues, coming back from that, getting back into the swing of things, or even getting back into the same work?
I did. I think just the adjustment aspect of it, like with anything, being out in the sandbox, being away from family, being able to use certain language and terminology that maybe is not accepted in the workplace, right? I think all of us know that was a little bit of a challenge when it came to the transition. But one great thing that I've seen, at least from my experience with Raytheon, and even talking to some of the folks over at Minerva, is that there's a lot of prior service individuals, a lot of people that either serve themselves, or whether enlisted or officer side in any of the military branches. So having that background and that ability to kind of understand where I was coming from was solid. And so I'm very grateful for a lot of the folks in this community that that understand both aspects of it, not only the military side, being deployed and having a sleep on the ground for days on end and eating not so healthy food, to also being effective on the civilian side as well.
I know the military path isn't for everybody for whatever reasons, but if available, is that a path that you would recommend to someone else looking to get into this career field?
Absolutely. So one of my previous assignments in the military was actually working for a MEPS, a military entrance processing station, where every single day I got to swear in individuals joining the force. So I always stress the importance of, hey, don't just go to the military and do your shifts, your staff duty, whatever it may be. Take advantage of that education. Take advantage of everything that the military has to offer when it comes to paying for the certifications. Go get your Sec Plus, go get your bachelor's, your master's paid for. So that is something I definitely recommend to pretty much to absolutely everybody. There are some great things that come from serving in the military. Other than serving this country honorably, there are a lot of benefits that come with it as well, and just taking advantage of those is something that I do often recommend to everybody, including my family members. So,
do you you're probably a little bit biased as a reservist, but would you recommend someone go into a reserve or National Guard type format, or is active duty a better path? Does it matter?
I think it depends. From my experience, it is it can be a lot at times working as a reservist. This concept of what is it, two days a month, 2 days a month and 2 weeks a year is I don't know if that's the case. At least for me, I'm on my computer as a commander, consistently signing documentation, getting phone calls at late at night to handle certain situations. So I think it kind of depends. If you're somebody that is willing to and committed to really working on creating that work-life balance, being able to have that vacation and take that PTO, being able to spend time with your family, your friends, and also having that work hard, play hard mentality. I think if this is an individual that really wants to progress on both sides, military as well as civilian, it is very important to keep that work-life balance. And that is one recommendation for anybody that is looking to go either National Guard or as a reservist.
You mentioned with Raytheon you work on classified systems. I assume that means you have a security clearance. Did that
Yes, that's correct.
come through the military or through the civilian world?
It came through the military. So at the beginning, everybody, essentially pretty much all officers, had the expectation to get a secret clearance. So as soon as I went into basic training, and after that I went to officer candidate school, right when I began officer candidate school, they begin the documentation and that process for that security clearance. So I had a secret, and later on, I would say about 2-3 years out, for signal officers, there came the requirement to have a top secret SCI.
Okay. We're getting pretty close in time. I've got my standard wrap-up questions. One of the first ones is I'll take a look at both your military and your civilian side. What kind of trends do you see that are starting to influence the future of the cybersecurity world that you're exposed to?
One of them that I'm still trying to wrap my head around is how much AI is now coming into play when it comes to any company. Look at when we look at the airports, they've instilled aspects of AI. When it comes to education, universities and whatnot, AI is also in place. So really trying to capture how big this concept of AI is something that is it's moving at such a fast, such a rapid rate that it is something that I am at least trying to wrap my head around, and I think that's going to be growing even more and more, and with aspects of it even being integrated into social media, it's everybody is going to have access to what is AI, and especially when it comes to moving forward.
All right. And then my final question then is, if there was one aspect of the cybersecurity industry, especially as it relates to the work that you do, that you could change, what would that be?
One aspect that I would change, I would say, as somebody who's always just kind of poking around LinkedIn, seeing what's available, having that often that requirement for individuals going into an entry level position to have a ridiculous amount of work experience and certifications is something that I would definitely I definitely recommend that we kind of look into that and see why the necessity, right, to for somebody going into cyber IT field to have 10 plus years worth of experience, right? And I may not have all the answers, but I would like to understand what the necessity is for that, just because we are kind of limiting ourselves when it comes to all of this. All of this drive, all these individuals really looking to get into the field and into the cybersecurity workforce.
All right. Well, we're about out of time here for this session. So, Roxy, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with the community today. If anyone watching or listening to this broadcast, whether now or the recorded version, wants to reach out and connect with you, do you have a way that they can do that?
Yes, absolutely. I am on LinkedIn. Roxy Correa-Torres. I am the only one in this world, so should be pretty good to find me.
Should be easy to find.
Should be
All right,
easy.
excellent. Appreciate that. So for those that are watching and listening to our discussion today, we want to thank you as well for tuning in. Today's discussion has been recorded and will be posted and available on the Tortora, Brayda, and the AUSCF websites. On behalf of the Tortora Brayda Institute Association U.S. Cyber Forces, we want to thank you for joining us for this session, and hope that you all join us for our next Cyber Workforce Series discussion. Roxy, thank you again, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.